Yeah.
Hi, and welcome to this presentation. Today we're going to be talking about should juveniles be tried as adults in the court system. To get you started on this, I'm going to give you some things to think about while I'm giving this presentation here. First off, think about how harsh the adult prison system is to put juveniles in. Second, I want you to think about what if you had a 10-year-old child who was given the death sentence, and that's possible when they're put in an adult prison system. They can get the death sentence. Also, I'd like you to think about the possibility of the juvenile criminal not being rehabilitated in the adult system, whereas in the juvenile system they do have a chance of being rehabilitated and put back into society. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about some states have come up with a certain rule that they use. It's called blending sentence, and I'll be talking to you a little bit about that. And I think really once you hear about it, you might agree with me that federal law should go ahead and enact this in every state. So let's get started on this presentation. Okay, children reach the age of reasoning at about the age of 7 when they should know right from wrong. And it's really kind of debatable. Some kids are slower, some kids are not. Children as young as 10 years old are being sentenced to prison, into an adult prison system. In some states, like Kansas and Nebraska, Kansas and Vermont, their rule is 10 years old, you can be tried as an adult. These children's sentences are long-term, and they're being put in prison systems with adult men. Okay, an estimated 7,100 juvenile defendants were charged with felonies in the adult criminal court in 1998. That's quite a few. And you're talking about, like I said, anywhere from 10 years old all the way up to 17-year-olds. State laws that govern the age at which juveniles can be tried as an adult. And like I said, we're going to be talking a little bit about the balance in sentencing. Crimes committed by juveniles have become a lot more serious, too. They're not only including just petty theft, they're including armed robbery, they're including murders, some are even including rapes. Crimes that have more serious offenses really should be penalized. But should they be penalized as an adult or should they be penalized as a child? Sending a 16-year-old juvenile to detention for 2 years for murder. Would you consider that really a long enough sentence for murder? Okay. And that can happen. So, to me, and let me start explaining the balance in sentencing, is you have a child who is 16 who has committed murder. They go to court, and through that court, in the adult court system, not the juvenile, or they start in juvenile. In that juvenile system, they turn around and get sentenced to 2 years, okay, for juvenile. But with the balancing sentencing, they can turn around and say, okay, you've got 20 years in jail. They do the 2 years in juvenile and then get sent after that when they're 18 to adult prison to finish out their sentence. And to me, really, that makes a lot more sense than just all of a sudden throwing a 10-year-old kid into an adult world. Victims and their families can feel now that justice is being done. Instead of them being tried as a juvenile, getting out in 2 years, or being tried as an adult, and this child is left in the system. So, all in all, victims and their families benefit from this, and so do the prisoner. Then we have the cons of doing this. Like I said, a 10-year-old kid, would you like to see him sentenced to death? Okay, would you like to see him sitting in prison for the rest of his life? Well, this can happen if the child is sent to an adult system. The sentencing is a lot more harsher, and they can turn around and be sentenced to death, which means that they sit on death row for maybe about 5-6 years. So the child is still only 16, 17 years old when he is put to death. Juveniles wind up being in prison with adult men. Adult men are on a different total level than a child is. There's more hardened criminals in the adult system, where the possibility of this juvenile will learn harsher crimes, learn how to commit harsher crimes, and there's no rehabilitation in an adult system, whereas in a juvenile system, you can at least try and rehabilitate these children. They proved statistically that juveniles are less likely to be rehabilitated in an adult system because there is no offering of rehabilitation there. And they're more likely to be reincarcerated. In other words, they're more likely to get out of prison and go back to prison for committing crimes again. Whereas in the juvenile system, they work towards not committing those crimes. These children will learn more criminal acts in prison from adults and can become involved in gangs. And you all know, and I'm sure you've heard, that there are a lot of gangs in prison, quite a few. You join up with a gang in prison, you get out, and you're still involved in that gang. So all in all, an adult prison system is not worth the child going to. How young is young? How young would you feel young would be? Think about it, for a child to be sentenced to an adult prison. And no, juveniles should not be tried as an adult. In my opinion, no, they shouldn't. Juveniles psychologically are very fragile at a young age. You're still forming your mind, you're still forming your life. And to put them in an adult system, you know, is just going to mess them up even more than what they were. And like I said, states that have enacted this balanced sentencing law, the federal government really should look into that and see if that would not balance the system out a little bit better. And everybody would be on both sides of it. There wouldn't be much controversy. He's going in as a juvenile. He's going to adult to finish out their sentence. Juveniles can be rehabilitated through the juvenile system, whereas through the adult system, like I said, there is no rehabilitation. And that's the end of the presentation, and I thank you all for coming out.